Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to get into something really cool, a whole cosmology that links the tiniest pulse of energy to, the massive patterns of the stars. It's this wild journey from the super small to the unbelievably big, and it really makes you wonder, could the universe just be a giant mirror of us? All right, so our first section, the universe in a ripple. So where does a whole cosmology like this even start? Well, it all kicks off with something super, super simple, a ripple. And get this, everything, everything, from your own thoughts to the stars in the sky, supposedly starts from this one single idea. You know that image, right? A perfectly still lake. You just touch the surface and boom, rings flow outward. Well, this whole idea takes that simple picture and blows it up to the size of the cosmos. So a ripple here isn't just about water. It's the fundamental starting point. It's a pulse of energy that kicks off when things are nice and quiet and then get disturbed. And the craziest part? Those echoes, they supposedly go on forever, indefinitely. And this progression is absolutely key to understanding everything else. You start with that one little ripple, right? Then you get the echoes, those repeating rings of force. And finally, those echoes don't just disappear. No, they start to fuse together, and they become a wave, a much larger, more powerful force. This is basically the ABCs of how energy builds itself up in this whole system. Okay, so check this out. This is where we jump from just physics into metaphysics. The idea is that this whole ripple effect, it's not just for, water or energy. Our own minds, our thoughts, our feelings, what we believe, they create their own ripples. And these inner pulses are literally shaping the world around us, making it a mirror of what's going on inside. All right, next up, heaven's emotional mirror. So, if our inner world is mirrored in the physical world right around us, what happens if we pull the camera way, way back? Well, that's where the heavens come in. The idea here is that the sky itself is like this huge cosmic mirror, reflecting the emotional and spiritual vibe of the entire planet. And at the center of this are the sun and the moon. Think of them like a cosmic father and mother. During the day, the sun lights up what's called the soul or spirit of the earth. And how does the earth show its emotions? Through the weather. A stormy day, a beautiful clear sky, a hopeful dawn. Then at night, the moon takes over. It doesn't create its own light, right? It reflects the sun's. And in doing so, it reveals something much deeper. The earth's desires, its dreams. And we see those reflected in the stars. So the big takeaway here is that the movement of the sun, moon, and stars, it's not random. Not at all. It's a story, a chronicle. The entire history of Earth is being written up there in the sky, told by where the sun, moon, and stars are in relation to us. Which brings us to section 3, when stars weave stories. If the sky is telling a story, then you've got to ask who's writing it. Well, in this view, the stars are the authors. And they're not just lonely dots of light. No, they're seen as these interconnected storytellers, weaving these incredible patterns that are a direct reflection of what's happening down here on Earth. So what is a constellation in this context? It's not just to connect the dots picture. It's described as a woven celestial image. Imagine threads of starlight being woven together into a pattern. It's even called a fusion of spirits. So together, they create this big, cohesive story in the sky that actually lines up with what's going on in our world. All right, moving on to our fourth part, constellations as cosmic law. And this is where it gets really deep. Because these stories that are woven in the stars, they're not just myths or legends. In this cosmology, the constellations are the living embodiment of fundamental cosmic laws. We're talking about the basic principles that run reality itself. Let's start with the law of balance, represented by Libra, the scales. This one's huge. It represents the fundamental law of balance, which is seen as the bedrock of justice and pretty much the foundation of all civilization. But this isn't just about, good versus evil. It's a physical, universal principle. At its core is action and consequence. You reap what you sow, the whole karmic cycle. It's also about pure efficiency, right? Reaping the most benefit from the least amount of effort. Think about it. This applies to farming, to engineering, even martial arts, where you use balance and the center of gravity to take down someone way bigger than you. It all comes back to balance. Next up, we've got the law of synergy, represented by Leo the lion. This one is all about family, grace, and this really powerful idea of synergy. Basically, it's about breaking your limits by fusing things together to create something way better than the individual pieces. The analogy used here is just brilliant. It's like making an alloy. Take iron. By itself, it rusts, it has its limits. But you fuse it with some other compatible elements, and you get stainless steel, stronger, tougher, way more resilient. And the same principle is applied to family lines. You fuse compatible elements, you overcome individual weaknesses, and you create something stronger that lasts through generations. And finally, let's talk about the law of strategy, represented by Taurus, the bull. Now, you might think bull means brute force, but that's not it at all. Here, it stands for strategy, the art of seeing the patterns in things and understanding how energy flows through a system. I mean, think about it. Everything has a pattern, right? The seasons, the food chain, even the way your opponent moves in a fight. Once you can recognize those patterns, you can start to influence the whole system. You can direct it, disrupt it, you can change the flow of events. And the idea is, if you get good enough at this, you can actually alter the path of fate itself. Okay, section 5, finding harmony in patterns. So we started with a tiny ripple, and now we're talking about huge cosmic laws written in the stars. So the big question is, how does this all come together for us in our lives? Well, that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, finding harmony, this state where all those patterns just click into place. It's called wavelength harmony. This happens when waves are oscillating at the same positive frequency, making each other stronger. It's that moment when all the patterns finally align. Your inner conflicts are gone, your actions are in sync with these cosmic laws, everything just works. It's a state where energy reinforces itself instead of being wasted. And this is seen as a huge sign that you're starting to move beyond that basic cycle of karma. Which really leaves us with one final big thought. If this whole cosmology is onto something, if the universe is really just a giant mirror of our inner world, from the tiniest thought ripple to the biggest constellation, then it really makes you ask a pretty deep question, doesn't it? What story are we telling with our own patterns? What kind of image are we weaving up there in the stars right now?